In the village of Umuaka, the morning sun could barely shine through the thick trees. Ikenna was the best man at tapping palm wine. He was strong from climbing trees every day. Every morning, before the birds finished singing, Ikenna was already up in the trees. Nkiru usually waited for him at the big oji tree. She was calm and gentle. Her skin was dark and smooth, and her hands were steady. She didn't talk much, but being near her made people feel peaceful. "The south is sweet today," Ikenna said, coming down the tree with his gourds. He wiped sweat from his face. Nkiru smiled and took the heavy container. "The market will be busy. People are thirsty for your wine," she said. They walked together to the village. The path was narrow and full of tree roots. Ikenna held her hand when the path got steep. They had promised to marry each other. They dreamed of a small house, a few goats, and a simple life. The villagers whispered, "Good match, a strong man and a gentle woman." On market day, the village was loud and colorful. Nkiru sat by her mother's basket, selling Ikenna's palm wine. The white frothy drink made people come with coins in hand. Ikenna walked nearby, sharpening his machete. "Your wine is the best," an old man said, giving Ikenna a coin. Ikenna looked at Nkiru. She moved gracefully, making the noisy market feel calm. Later, they went to her father's farm to work. They weeded the yam mounds together. "My father is worried," Nkiru said under a tree. "About the farm?" Ikenna asked. "No, about his debt. He borrowed a lot from Onyeka," she said quietly. "The interest keeps growing." Ikenna looked at Onyeka's big house in the center of the village. It had high walls and full yam barns. Onyeka was very rich and powerful. Ikenna held Nkiru's hand. "We will work harder. I will top more trees. We will pay it." The peace of Umuaka ended on a Tuesday. The elders gathered in the village square. They sat on carved stools under the big silk cotton tree. Nkiru's father, Maziokoro, stood in the middle. Onyeka sat among the elders even though he was younger than most. His clothes were expensive, heavy with embroidery. He did not look at Okoro. He looked at the sky. "The debt has been unpaid for 3 seasons," the elder said. "Mazi Okoro has no land, no goats. The law is clear. A debt must be paid, either with hard work or something else." Ikenna stood at the edge of the crowd. His heart beat fast. He saw Nkiru standing at the back. Her face was pale. "Onyeka has a need," the elder said. "His first wife, Amarachi, has been unable to have children for 10 years. To clear the father's debt, the daughter shall enter the house of the creditor." A heavy silence fell over the square. No one spoke. Onyeka was too powerful, and the debt was too big. Nkiru did not scream. She only closed her eyes. Ikenna wanted to move forward, but his uncle grabbed his shoulder. "Stay back," he whispered. "You cannot fight the elders and the rich at the same time." That night, there were no drums in Umuaka. Normally, a wedding would fill the village with music and laughter. But this was not a happy marriage. Nkiru was being traded. She was led to Onyeka's compound at dusk. Her mother walked behind her, crying quietly into her wrapper. Nkiru carried only a small bundle of clothes. She did not look back at the path that led to Ikenna's hut. Inside the house, Amarachi, Onyeka's first wife, was waiting. She stood in the middle of the yard, her arms crossed. Her face was cold. She did not welcome Nkiru. She pointed to a small, dark room near the back of the kitchen. That is where you sleep, Amarachi said. You are here for one thing. Give him a son. Until then, you are just a death paid. Months passed. Nkiru worked hard. She fetched water from the far stream, ground pepper, and swept the large compound. Then a change happened. Nkiru's belly began to grow. The news spread quickly through Umuaka. Onyeka became very proud. He held feasts and bought Nkiru new clothes. She wore them, but she did not smile. The servants who had ignored her before now bowed low and brought her the best food and water. But Amarachi became jealous. She watched from her doorway. She saw how Onyeka looked at Nkiru's belly. She saw the elders congratulate him. Amarachi stopped eating. She felt like a ghost in her own house. She was the senior wife, but she felt forgotten. She realized that once the baby was born, the village would ignore her. Even Onyeka might forget her. She decided she would rather be feared than forgotten. Beyond the village reach, a place people avoided, where the forest was so thick that the sun never touched the ground, lived a mysterious woman. No one in the village said her name. They just called her the one who knows. One night, Amarachi sneaked to see her during the new moon when the sky was completely dark. She carried a pot of expensive oil and a white hen. The path was full of thorns, tearing her cloth, but she did not care. The woman's hut was made of grey mud and had a roof of dry palm leaves. There was no fire inside, but the air was hot and heavy. He will love the child more than me, Amarachi said. He will throw me out. The woman, moving quietly in the shadows, asked, You want to cast a spell on the life inside her? No, Amarachi said. I want my place back. I want the debt to remain unpaid. The woman gave Amarachi a small dried gourd filled with grey powder. On the night the moon hides, when the baby is being born, put this in the fire. The smoke will do the work. But remember, once darkness enters a home, it will never leave. It wants a seat at the table. Amarachi took the gourd without shaking. The night of the bath came. Nkiru lay on a mat in the bathing hut. Her face was wet with sweat. The old midwife Neka worked by the light of a single lamp. Outside, Oyaka paced the yard, excited and proud, waiting for a son. Amarati moved quietly. She tended the small fire in the corner to give light and warmth. When Nneka went to get water, Amarachi threw the grey powder into the fire. Nkiru gasped. She held the mat, her eyes rolling back. The baby was born in total silence. There was no first cry. There was no struggle. The baby's eyes were wide open, but its heart did not beat. Nkiru looked at the child and then at Amarachi, who stood by the fire. Her face was calm, almost smiling. Then Nkiru passed away. By morning, both Nkiru and her baby were gone. The elders of Umuaka met in the village square. A death during childbirth was considered a bad omen, but they did not blame Onyeka. They wanted to forget the debt they had forced. It was the will of the gods, said the head elder. The girl was not strong enough to carry the blessing of a great man. Nkiru and her baby were laid to rest without drums or songs. They took them to the edge of the forest, not the burial grounds. Ikenna watched from behind a bush. He saw them lower the wooden plank into the dirt. He saw Onyeka stand back, annoyed rather than sad. Ikenna knelt by the fresh grave. He had no flowers, only a small gourd of his finest palm wine. He poured it on the soil. They traded you like a goat, he whispered, but the earth does not forget. On the third night after the burial, a servant at Onyeka's house went to the well. She saw a strange shadow near the yam barn. The shadow was tall, with long black hair flowing down her back. She was carrying something wrapped in white. The servant called out, but the shadow did not turn. She moved as if floating, her feet never touching the ground. When she passed the barn, the yams inside rotted instantly. By the end of the week, the children of Umuaka were too scared to sleep. They whispered about a woman who stood in the corners of their rooms, her long hair hiding her face. "She is looking for something she lost," one child said. "The debt has not been paid." Fear covered the village like thick fog. People locked their doors at sunset. The busy market became quiet. Even the elders looked nervous. The woman who lived deep in the forest was the first to pay. Villagers found her hut collapsed. She lay in the middle of the ruins. There were no signs of violence, but her face was frozen in terror. Her mouth was filled with the same grey powder Amarachi had used. When Amarachi heard the news, she ran to her room. She looked in the mirror and screamed silently. Behind her reflection, in the dark corner, she saw a flash of long black hair. Onyeka went to his big yam barn to prepare for trade. When he opened the doors, thousands of black flies rushed out. His whole harvest had rotted. The elders gathered again under the silk cotton tree. "The spirit is not at peace," the head elder whispered. "We must make a sacrifice. We must calm her." "How?" someone asked. "We buried her. We gave her silence." Ikenna stepped into the center of the square. His clothes were tattered and his eyes were filled with sorrows. "You traded a living soul to pay a debt," he said. "You watched her taken, you watched her die, and you buried her like a dog." The elders could not answer. Guilt hung heavy over them. Onyeka stumbled into the square. His expensive clothes were dirty. "My barns are empty. My house is cursed. Do something," he shouted. One afternoon, Amarati went to well to fetch water, and there she met her fate. She fell into the well and never made it out alive. One of Onyeka's male servants witnessed he was far off when he heard Amarachi screaming Nkiru's name. Her body, when recovered, was filled with bruises, as if someone has dragged her into the well by force. One by one, the elders began to die mysteriously, one bitten by his snake, others strange illness that even the great herbalist couldn't explain, and so they all met their fate. Onyeka's wealth did not vanish all at once. It rotted slowly. His yam barn filled with black fungus that no fire could destroy. His goats stopped giving birth. The servants ran away, terrified of the shadowy woman who glided silently through the hallways at night. Ikenna lived to be old, but never married. He stayed in his small hut, tapping palm wine and watching the sunset. He became a warning to the village. When young men talked about trading land or daughters for money, Ikenna would point to Onyeka's ruined compound. The story of the death wife became a song mothers sang to their children, not to comfort them, but to warn them. Some prices are too high to pay. The earth and the spirit remember every debt. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. I want to say a huge thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you found this story interesting, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Your support means the world to me and helps this channel grow every day. I'm curious, what was your favorite part of the story? Let me know below. Until next time, take care of yourself and have a wonderful day.